4.5 million. That's how many podcasts exist in the world today, especially podcast guest interviews that are popping off. It is more engaging and it's more exposure because you are presented in front of someone else's network that is your ideal audience. Did someone say free marketing? But don't just accept to be a podcast guest, answer some questions and then expect all of the results. How you show up on that podcast determines if someone even finishes that episode, let alone looks you up and then buys from you. I remember once being super excited to listen to a podcast interview with Richard Branson. And I hate to say this, but I turned off that episode after 5 minutes. I wanted to listen to it, but the way that he spoke with filler words every 10 seconds, saying and it was painful to listen to, and I couldn't bear myself to finish that episode. Versus something that happened just last week. So I'm about to get personal and share with you that I have been dealing with something recurring called thrush. So this was completely coincidental, but I was sitting at the boarding gate at the airport and I came across a podcast episode about recurring thrush. And I was interviewing a woman who had a product to help with this issue. So I was like, great, this is exactly what I want to learn more about. Like I am feeling a little bit confused why it's so recurring. So I downloaded the podcast straight away. I started listening to it as I boarded the plane, as the plane was taxiing and about to take off. And in the first 5 minutes, I had not just gotten hooked into the episode, I had gone onto my web browser to look up the guest called Catherine Slowgrove. I've looked into her product, and by the 11-minute mark of the podcast episode, I had made an $80 purchase of that product. Like that is the fastest conversion I've ever come across for a podcast guest interview. Like I haven't even finished the episode. I'm not even halfway through and I've purchased the product. And that is due to how she showed up and how compelling and convincing she was that I needed this. So we're going to get into that now, how you can be more engaging as a podcast guest. However, I need to be honest, and I need to admit that I actually cut out about 20 minutes worth of content for this video because there was so much that I wanted to fit in about how you can become a more engaging podcast guest. From reducing filler words, like what I said before, about how it can damage your reputation, of how to improvise on the spot when you get asked a curveball question, how to sound professional and credible, yet friendly. And I had to cut that out because this video was going to be way too long. However, I can tell you exactly where you can get all of that content. My Voice for Impact video course is the comprehensive training where you can transform your voice to speak with confidence anytime and anywhere. Over 25 jam-packed videos, you will master your communication skills from your work, your business to on stages. So you might as well master your podcast interview skills, but also why not other interview skills like negotiating, like job interviews, like speaking to the camera on social media or presenting on a stage. The best part about this video course, it is completely step by step. So you will not feel overwhelmed, you won't feel procrastinated, you'll be supported every step of the way to develop your speaking in a very practical way and immediately notice the improvements in the way that you speak in your life. If you want the course for a very special YouTube offer, click the link in the podcast description and you'll be able to grab it there. Now back to this video about what you should do if you want to become a more engaging podcast guest. And here is my tip. So you know when you're getting asked questions and it's an interview, do not answer that question directly. Or this is really important, make sure you're listening to me. Like so many people go straight into preaching, but where is their credibility to do so? And not only that, but preaching is something that goes in one ear and out the other because we are exposed to it so frequently, every minute of every day on every social media platform. So it's much easier to tune that out as a listener. So what you should do instead of answering the question directly is to start with a story. Let me give you an example. Let's say someone has been asked the question, what is your definition of success? They could start their response like this. 2 years ago, I thought I had success. I was running a mega business. I was making 7 figures a year. I was running a team of 10 people, but I worked myself so hard that I got burnt out and landed myself in hospital for 2 weeks. And after that, I had to relearn my version of success. It wasn't about running a big business. It wasn't about making more money or having a big team. Success was about having my health. So now success to me means having my health, having freedom so that I can sustain what I am doing. Do you like how that sounded? It started with a story that then led into the takeaway. So now this story adds context and meaning to your response. The response actually has more credibility. You're not just spitting things that you've heard from someone else, you are speaking from true experience. Here's another example. When I get asked, hey, why is speaking so important? I'll share this story. Recently, I had the pleasure of watching one of my friends present his thesis for his PhD in astrophysics at Harvard University. I know, brilliant man. And at the start, I watched this older man get up to introduce my friend. When I watched this man speak, I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. You know, he seemed really nervous. He had filler words every 10 seconds. His voice was uncertain. So I texted my friend and asked him, hey, who was that who introduced you at the start? He seems really sweet. My friend replied saying, it's funny you call him sweet like he's a gentle old man. You know, he's chair of the astronomy department at Harvard University. He is a professor of astrophysics. He's one of the most famous cosmologists in the world, and he is the smartest man I've ever met. And I was like, okay, don't blame me. I had a 2-minute impression of this guy. That's not what I saw. I saw a gentle old man who seemed really nervous. And that is the thing. You could be the best in the world at what you do, but if you are unable to clearly and confidently convey that to others, then you'll only ever be perceived at the level of your ability to communicate. Your communication skills act as the ceiling for how others perceive you, and therefore the success you could achieve in your career. That was my response. How did that sound? Was it engaging to listen to a story? Did it bring the point home with more credibility? And did it consolidate how important speaking is? I hope so, because I've hopefully proved the point through that story. So that is my tip for you. Please don't just go straight into preaching and directly answer every question. Start your response with a story, and I promise you'll become so much more engaging as a podcast guest. Now, before we wrap up, don't go anywhere yet. You've now learned a practical tip to become a better podcast guest. The problem is now that this is just the first step of the equation of how you can be more engaging. You could be starting every response perfectly with a story, but if you don't know the other techniques to be more engaging, like the formula to tell a good story, how to articulate your words clearly, how to reduce filler words, then you could still very much lose your audience. And that's why I have created the Voice for Impact video course. It is 25 videos of a comprehensive step-by-step training that will help you to transform your voice with confidence anytime and anywhere. The modules of this course help you to speak with more confidence and clarity in your work, in your business, and on stages. From body language, to improvisation, to being more funny, to being able to present on stage with confidence. You will get it all in this course. So if you want the exclusive YouTube offer, please click the link in the podcast description and you'll be able to grab the course there. Thank you for watching this video. Please like this video. Please subscribe to this channel so that you can get more free videos like this. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you in the next video.